So Miss Vicky's here. Mikey's over there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I've seen this one.
Miss Messina.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. We'd like to get started. So if you haven't gotten a program or a candle, please do. There's some people going around with candles and programs. So good afternoon. I'm really happy to be here today, and I'm just ecstatic about the number of you who are here. Every year that we do this, we have more and more people who are present. And your presence makes a difference because it supports the work that we do in HIV. You're helping us to make other people aware of this work and aware of what our goal is, to end the epidemic. This is what we'd like to do, end the epidemic in our lifetime. Many of you may already know that there are over 8,000 people who are affected by HIV and AIDS. And of that number, only, say, half are in care. There's so many other undiagnosed people that we'd like to have diagnosed and bring them into care. HIV is not a death sentence, and it affects everyone. We try our best to get the word out that we want everyone to be tested and be treated. That's the most important thing of all. So thank you again for being here. I appreciate your presence here. And at this time, we'd like to say a prayer, and I want to introduce Paul Doolin, who's going to come and bring us a prayer.
Thank you, ma'am. Would you join me, please? Merciful God, who some of us call Jehovah, some of us call Yahweh, some of us call you Allah, some of us call you Jah. Thank you for the heroes that you've sent to us over these last many years since 1980, who have brought us this far, that there is testing and treatment. Thank you that you have always heard our cries and our tears and our groans for the victims who've already been taken away from us. Help us, like Ms. Fran said, to have a complete renewal of commitment that some one of these days we will all be here in this park talking to you again and thanking you that we have overcome. Amen.
Thank you so much. All right, at this time, I'd like to bring Dietz to the front. Dietz is the chairman of our planning council, and she's going to bring us a few words.
I don't know if I can multitask and keep this going at the same time. Thank you, Fran. I appreciate that. Well, thank you, everybody, for coming here. It's incredible to see so many people from the community, so many friends, family members, colleagues, fierce advocates for people who are living with HIV. You know, I said, Happy World AIDS Day to somebody when I walked up here, and they said, you know, is it happy? And I wanted to talk about some of the things that make me, if not happy, at least feel empowered with where science has brought us today. Science has brought us today to a place where we can get tested. Some of the tests, they only take 60 seconds, 1 minute, to find out what your status is. Most of the ones we use in town take about 20 minutes, but still, what profound power that is to know what your status is in such a short amount of time. There used to be a time where you used to have to get your blood work done, send it out, wait painstakingly for a call for 2 weeks until someone called you back, pins and needles. Science has brought us to a place where we don't have to do that anymore. I'm also proud to live in a city that has fast track options, which means that many agencies in town, if you find out that you are in fact living with HIV, are committed to making sure that you get medications within 72 hours of finding out that information. How powerful is that? That is something that absolutely is worth feeling empowered about. Especially because, you know, a lot of people find out and it's as terrifying as it was 20, 30 years ago. But we can use science, we can use medications to give people much better chances of living happy, healthy lives that are not impeded by HIV, at least not medically. So, you know, I say at least not medically because I can talk about the science and I can talk about how powerful it is that we have treatments that at times are as easy as taking one pill a day. But I also stand shoulder to shoulder with all of you with the memories of everybody who we've lost, people who we've lost this year, people who did not have access to those services. So I really would like to send a call out to anybody who still feels like they're not sure how to participate. We mentioned that I am the chair of the Planning Council. We are unique in this disease state that what people say we need, what people who are actually living with HIV say they need, what they're not getting and the ways that they need it as fast as they need it, that feedback actually determines how much money goes into all of the services that Ryan White dollars, which are federal dollars set aside for people who are living with HIV, how those services are implemented. And you can participate in that. All of our meetings are open to the public. The stigma that still affects the city, especially in the South, is overwhelming for very many people. Talk to people about what you know about HIV. Ask people to get tested. For someone who says, oh, I don't need to get tested, that's not really me, I'm not gay, or any of the fill-in-the-blank things that people might use as an excuse, tell them that that's not true. Anybody can contract HIV, but the sooner we find out about our status, the sooner we can do something about it. And if you are taking your medications the way that they're prescribed, you can get to something that's called undetectable. I'm all about participation. Does someone want to say what undetectable means?
Untransmittable.
All right. So undetectable means that if you're taking your medications every day as prescribed by a doctor, that there can be so little of the virus in your system that our tests can't actually pick it up anymore. And what that means functionally, outside of your immune system being able to protect itself from a lot of the illnesses that took so many of our loved ones, friends, family members in the past, it also means that you cannot, I heard it over here, you cannot transmit the virus. How incredible is that? That's incredible. We've leaned on condoms and safer sex, which are fundamentally important. I do not want to take away from that. But people who are living with HIV no longer have to live in fear that they could spread the disease to somebody who they love or somebody who they're just sharing an experience with. And that is powerful. So every single person here has the ability to go get tested, to talk to their friends, their family members, their aunties, their churches, everywhere. And because HIV is informed by all of the social justice issues that keep all of us oppressed, issues of institutionalized racism, incarceration, faulty laws, access to housing, access to sex education, you can literally throw a dart and hit something that you feel passionate about and make a difference within. Call your HIV and AIDS service organizations. Find out how you can volunteer. I believe that if all of us get together and really commit ourselves to not letting fear lead this epidemic, that we can actually overcome it. So thank you so much for being here today, and I'd like to pass this off.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to bring Brandy Bowen, who is the Program Director for the Planning Council. She's going to bring a few words. Thank you.
Good afternoon. How's everyone feeling? Thank you all for being here, and thank you, Fran, for hosting us yet again for your annual wreath laying, and thank you for allowing me this opportunity to give some memorial remarks. You all, those of you who know me probably are expecting I'll have a smile on my face, give you my usual 20-minute poetic, eloquent, whatever, and be done. And honestly, I just want to pull out a box of tissues and stand here for the next 2 whole minutes and cry my eyes out. That's what I want to do right now. Because the loss that we all feel in life affects me too. Because that's how life is. We have joy, we have phenomenal joy, and then we have phenomenal grief. And so many of you I've been working with in this fight for decades. And I know too many of you can remember the days when we had funerals every day. And we get so excited at the Planning Council when we get to go year after year with no funerals at all. And then this last year has been a very hard year for the Planning Council. We've lost way too many friends of the Planning Council, and there's a handful in particular that I need to honor today. And while I'm mentioning their names and some of their many traits that I appreciate so much, I invite you to think about those that you have lost in the last year and how blessed we all are that they were in our lives, that we were touched by their presence, that their contributions continue to make a difference in this community, just as your contributions make a difference. So the first 3 I'm going to mention are former council members. The other 3 were friends of the council and supported our mission in a variety of ways. First, I'd like to thank Leon for always asking conscientious questions. Then I'd like to thank John for holding our feet to the fire. I'd like to thank Will for speaking truth to power. I also need to thank NISA for always going to bat for people living with HIV. And I need to thank Dwayne, and I'll quote Dwayne when I thank him. Thank him for putting on his boy clothes and going to Baton Rouge to talk to our decision makers. And I also need to thank Sister Marcy for everything. So I thank all of you for working together, for celebrating the joys, for spreading the message of you equals you, that there is hope, that we do care, but we remember those who have come before and what we've lost, and we honor them even as we celebrate. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. You know, when we lose planning council members, it affects us like we've lost a family member. But when we lose anyone in our community, it affects us all. So I just want us all to remember those who have passed and those who are still living with the virus. All right, at this time, I'd like to introduce Nikki Napoleon, who's going to bring us spoken word. Thank you.
Hi, how are you guys doing? So I want you guys to bear with me because I honestly just wrote this poem an hour ago. And the reason why I wrote this poem an hour ago is because every year I always do the traditional HIV poem. And I didn't want to do that. And one of the reasons being is because, like was mentioned earlier, was that we lost so many individuals to HIV last year. And working, of course, with Brotherhood, we have been seeing a lot of new diagnoses, especially among our youth population, which is very troubling. And to me, each and every one here, I can feel the energy and the spirit of love. I can, see the beauty of each and every individual that's here, and I feel the presence of love. And so I believe that at such a time as this, that we are all called to love. No matter who we are, no matter our sexual preference, no matter our religion, no matter our race, no matter our class, we are all called to love. And so I think that one of the things that we must begin to do, especially in the HIV sector, is to begin to continue to utilize our voices. I know there are so many champions out here, but continue to utilize our voices in love to reach those individuals and those populations who are most affected. And so this is the piece I wrote, and it's called, We Are Called for a Purpose. And so it is written, between a puddle of violins in time and space, we are called to love. You and I are the measuring cups of love. The cosmic constellations of life. We are the lightning strings of harmony. A sunflower boarding room of love. A pulpit constellation of peace. Dandelion prayer songs perfuming the morning. We are called to love. We are glowworm stars, burning at sunset. A haiku river crying out to Egypt. When the shadows of humanity claws in the night, we are called to love. For such a time as this, we are warriors. We are lovers called in the beauty of the night. You see, we are a carousel of kindness, weeping from our lips. We are a river of words. We are the voices echoing in the dark. We are strong, we are powerful, we are mighty. You see, love. Love will be the cancer patient or the HIV patient without a person to pray with them at night. Love is the homeless elderly woman with a gardenia of flowers just dancing across her lap. Love is a daughter looking for her father for love. It is the face of the drug-addicted family member that we have turned away. Love. Love is the peacock beauty that I see in your eyes. Love is the freckled face of the little boy that I once taught that it was killed. Love. We are called to love for such a purpose as this. Against the stigma and phobias of life, we walk across the igloo waters of love. We fight against racism and isms and homophobia. We, each and everyone, we are called to love. And so let it be affirmed Let it be affirmed in the center of life. Let the energy of our relationships of love, let it echo across the waters of humanity. You see, we are those who love thy neighbor. We are those who love the beauty of one another, and we are called to love. So offer up your raincoat. Open the door and let love dwell in your temple. Offer love a good morning kiss and a coffee at your table. Let love reign. Offer it a popsicle home in the summertime. Let it be affirmed that I see love. Regardless if your color is melanated, regardless if it's coffee color, regardless if it's blue, regardless. And when others are building walls of hate, we will build walls, and we will be strong, and we will lift our hands in unity. We will build arcs of justice, because we have been called to love, and we will let it balloon in our hearts and let our heart box speak for itself, because we are loved, and we are all God's children, called for such a time as this. The purpose will always be the footprints of love.
Amen.
We appreciate that. You know, the beauty of our coming together like this, I think I have your purse.
It matches your outfit.
Yeah, thank you. You know, that's the problem with listening to something as beautiful as what Nikki brought us. You know, we all become emotional about it. And the beauty of our coming together like this, someone came to me and said that someone wanted to offer a poem. So, Johanna?
Hi everybody, my name is Johanna. I'm originally from Michigan, and I'm here today to support the cause. My friend Nikki invited me, and I have a short poem that was written 2 years ago when Charlie Sheen actually became public about his status, and I believe a lot of the issues that were relevant in that time are still relevant now. It's called I Have a Dream. I have a dream that one day boys and girls won't look at HIV and think it only affects Charlie Sheen, that testing will become a mandatory practice, and HIV will stop disproportionately killing our black men, that the fear of stigma will not keep people in the dark, that a hint of compassion can be in the public's heart. I have a dream that people will give a helping hand and not think that HIV only affects men who have sex with men. I have a dream that pre-exposure prophylaxis will be used like birth control. I have a dream that antiretroviral medications will be made affordable. I have a dream that the fear of getting tested comes to a halt, and that we won't become bullies when people receive a positive result. I have a dream that we will have comprehensive sex education and an abundance of resources in our community. I have a dream that one day we will end HIV.
Thank you so much. Okay, at this time, I'd like for the people who are bringing the quilt out, this is one of the quilts that we had, and the rest of you who bring the quilt out. Some of the people that Brandy mentioned in her presentation are featured on the quilt. I don't know, Brandy, you want to come forward and point them out? Okay, why don't y'all come over this way a little bit so you don't block the other quilt. And Penny, you want to come forward? And
I think Brandy stepped away, but this is John that she mentioned. This is Larry that she mentioned. This is Leon, Roger, and we mustn't forget our sister Bridget Kimberly.
Absolutely. Here, Penny. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Penny, and I am a woman living with HIV for 31 years. I have lived with HIV through sickness and in health. I was diagnosed in 1986 when there were no medications on the market. I have seen AZT,
I have experienced handfuls of medications a few times a day, and now I'm happy to say I am on a 1-pill regimen. Thank you all for joining us on this 29th day that is joyous for some people, and it's joyous and it is somber all at the same time. Joyous because there are people like me who are still living and living a life that is full and vibrant, and I am thriving. And then there's a somber occasion that we are here, and that is what I'm here to talk about. And I first of all want to thank the MAC AIDS Fund for bringing some of the quilt to New Orleans. And then we also have some of our own quilts, which I will talk about in a minute. And I want to give you a history of the AIDS Memorial Quilt Project. The AIDS Memorial Quilt was first unfolded in the National Mall in Washington, D.C. in 1987. It was the idea of gay rights activist Cleve Jones. The quilt had 1,920 panels and covered a space larger than a football field. Today, the quilt has over 48,000 panels. And yesterday at the prayer breakfast, I was able to share with the people gathered that I went to the International AIDS Conference in Washington, D.C. in 2012. That was the first time on American soil that the entire quilt was laid out. It was so large that it could not be contained in the Washington Mall. And around the city of Washington, D.C., you would see parts of the quilt hanging or laying for people to stop, as we are doing today, and just take a somber moment to remember, but to also to give thanks and to rejoice. The purpose of the AIDS Memorial Quilt is to serve as a memorial for those who died of complications related to AIDS. The purpose of the New Orleans HIV Quilt is to help people understand the devastating impact HIV is having on our community. The New Orleans HIV Awareness Week initiative invited churches, individuals, organizations, and all those with an interest in the HIV crisis in New Orleans to prepare quilt squares expressing their voice on HIV in our community. In 2016, we had one quilt. 2017 brings together a sundry of voices resulting in 3 quilts. And I want to highlight the quilts right now. This quilt right here, we're very proud of because a 5th grader actually created the panels on this quilt. And we are very impressed by that because this 5th grader did their homework. I mean, the statistics may be slightly out of date. However, most of the information is still very relevant today. We also have the quilt over here on the board, and then this quilt. And one of the things we want to highlight about these quilts is that people living with HIV also contributed a panel to create these amazing quilts that we have here today. Squares were donated by persons of all ages and stations of life. These quilts reflect the hard labor and love of our community coming together to address the HIV crisis on our area. They are products that the entire community can be proud of. And we also want to extend the invitation to organizations and individuals out here today that if you would like to make a contribution to a panel to the quilt for next year, we welcome them. Just contact Doreen Tollerson at Crescent Care. She's in charge of volunteer services. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And if you haven't